Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Cilia. Today I am joined by Julian Bonici. Yesterday was another big day for Malta, so let's jump right into the headlines. Gozo Ministries' recent concrete works in a scenic valley may be in breach of permit. John Daly is finally set to face charges over 60 million EU bribery scandal. Money laundering schemes between Jorgen Fenech and his associates have been revealed in court. Graffiti found at a Huddingley cliff edge has drawn ire online, and a Netflix show, Below Deck Mediterranean, has been spotted filming locally in Malta. Now definitely stay tuned to the end of today's episode. We've got a very special guest interview. The Mayor of Marsa, Mayor Azzopardi, is here today to talk about his town being named the capital of culture for Malta, so definitely stay tuned for that. And let's jump into the first story, Julian.
Yeah, a story that's actually published on Love in Malta this morning. It's our exclusive, and basically the Gozo Ministry appears to be in breach of permit for major and destructive works in quite a picturesque Ramla Valley in Gozo. So essentially all the issue revolves around is the restoration of rubble walls into the area that have actually slowly turned into actually long walls of concrete with actually cladding of rubble walls in front of them to make it seem like they're rubble walls when they're actually none at all. Now, obviously what this does actually is that it could be very devastating for the vegetation and the ecosystem in the area. You know, the Ramla Valley is actually home to indigenous plants, actually some trees that only grow within the valley, so sort of the water system and ensuring, a sustainable ecosystem is sort of vital to the valley's survival. Now, as we were saying, obviously these were meant to be rubble walls. The initial plans, which are actually EU funded, by the way, about €2 million being put towards that, was sort of to develop, a sustainable wall, where literally they were just going to sort of replace parts of the wall and build it with new ones, but sort of maintain that sort of, historical look, the traditional look, the traditional function of a rubble wall itself. If you want to look at the photos on lovinmalta.com, actually what it turned out was completely different. You can actually see, the cement, it's actually quite a recruiting and almost a bit of microcosm to how we see traditional Malta, right? As long as you cover it with tradition, if it's core isn't anymore, it's completely fine with us. Lovin Malta has actually reached out to the Planning Authority and the Environment Resources Authority to get to the bottom of this. Why has the ministry breached its permit, and why are they sort of doing this to, such a scenic valley on the islands?
I think what's really sad about this story is that when it was first announced, people were like, okay, this is quite a cool project. We're going to bring back the High Tasseir, we're going to bring back the rubble wall, very traditional. So then when you start seeing all this concrete being poured in between everything, it is a little bit heartbreaking. So we'll definitely be following the story. Like Julian pointed out, this is funded by the EU's Rural Fund, 2.2 million. So I wonder what they would have to say when they see what we put the money to use for. Moving on to the next story, a very big development in a case that we've been following for years now. Former European Commissioner John Daly is set to face charges in court over an attempt by his aide to solicit 60 million euros. Now, if you remember this story from a few years back, it had involved a smokeless tobacco lobby, a snus lobby group, and there had been a recording revealed of a bit of a conversation between the aide, Silvio Zammit, and one of the company's representatives, where he had tried to obtain a bit of a bribe, quite a bit of a bribe, 60 million euros. For years, there's been questions of whether he'd be facing any set of charges over this. Remember, he had been forced to resign his post as European Commissioner as a result of the fallout from this scandal. However, finally, it seems like his day in court will arrive. The charges have been announced, so this is quite a major development in a case that's been going on for years.
No, yes, a really, really major development. We've sort of been hearing about this story since 2011, 2012, around about when John Daly was forced to resign as EU Commissioner because of it. As you were saying, charges were never filed, and there were always questions raised about why that was never the case. As John Rizzo, the former commissioner, has said, he was actually planning to prosecute John Daly. However, he was removed from his post before he was ever given the chance to do so. What's really interesting about the case is that the man who was investigating John Daly at the time, Angelo Gaffar, today's police commissioner, so could actually give some real answers why charges have finally been pursued against the former commissioner. Obviously, for those of you out there, Daly's name isn't new to scandal and alleged corruption. There's been about 3 decades, worth of, the various scandals, really questionable deals that he's been involved with in his tenure as a PN minister, which was from the 1980s to the early 2000s, and his period as an EU commissioner. You can read all about his history on lovinmalta.com. We're obviously going to see what's going to happen, from this. We never really know. He's found his way, how to maneuver in and out of these situations. We'll obviously see, and we'll keep you informed on all the goings on in that case. On to another court story coming out straight from yesterday, where we actually saw really interesting things revealed. Jorgen Fenech's money laundering schemes with some of his associates were, completely revealed, completely put on display in a Maltese court. So this investigation basically all stems mostly from Jorgen Fenech's mobile phone, where there were so many WhatsApp conversations with close associates sort of detailing this wide-ranging scheme. Most notably, yesterday, some really weird chats were revealed. One was with Patrick De Manuele, who's the COO of Tomas Gaming, asking, being asked to be prepared, €50 notes, for some illicit purchase. And there's Jorgen Fenech reaching out to another employee, Nicholas Kakia, who's also been charged in the case, literally asking him point blank, how much have we laundered? Which Nicholas Kakia replies, you gave me 30, and now we have 80. So sort of implying, how much they've sort of laundered in that period. In court today, they also identified, how all of these people in Jorgen Fenech sort of inner circle within the employment structure were, shifting, large sums from one place to another, and it's believed they were using Tomas Group's casino operations to sort of pass through some illicit payments, whatever they might be. We're obviously going to find out much more about this in court. Lovin Malta has already revealed how De Manuele actually transferred hundreds of thousands in cash from Malta to France while Jorgen Fenech was there. We still don't know what those fees were used for. Now, this is yet another case Fenech is involved with. I just want to make this clear. Fenech at the moment is charged with the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia. He's facing a life sentence, and that the trial should be starting, in the next few months or a year or so. He's also being charged with purchasing weapons and firearms off the dark web, and now he's got sort of this money laundering operation. I don't know about you, John, but I think this is just the beginning.
Seeing the actual exchanges blew my mind a little bit. I'm not going to lie. In one case, he asked directly, "Did you count the money?" Just so his associate says they're still in the envelope. In another case, they talk about their guy visiting their casino every day. Once Jorgen Fenech even says, quote, "It'd be best to give him a jackpot," implying that, money was being funneled to a specific person through the casino. Another time he refers to some money in France, which he says, quote, he wants to get rid of. So these exchanges really show you kind of the depth of how far some of these plans went. So yes, this is not far from the end of it. So definitely stay tuned for more on that. Moving on to a bit of a different story. Graffiti, some might say it a very poor attempt at art, some might call it vandalism, has appeared on a cliff edge in Hundingley, an area called known as Jebel Chantar. Now the thing is the graffiti which you're probably seeing on your screens right now is very poor attempts at art. They're drawn in blue paint, and a photographer found them, and he said this is not the first time he's found vandalism of this sort in these kind of really beautiful, scenic, natural areas. The photographer Neil Bogeya told Love Malta that he was shocked and angry at the same time, saying that he's been visiting the area for years. Just to see it vandalized in this way, he said, is disgusting. Now, this is not the first time that markings or paintings have appeared on rocks or natural areas. I mean, a while back, a number of spray-painted warnings had appeared in areas telling people not to access certain roads. And now this latest graffiti appearing in Dingley, raises the question, should Malta's, rocky outcrops be protected more?
No, I think actually 100%. I actually remember even a few years back, I might be wrong, when a similar incident happened in Schlendi, right? That picturesque Schlendi Bay, filled with graffiti on a natural landscape. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone out there, but in my opinion, at least, graffiti is meant to, focus on an urban sprawl, right? And I mean, in Malta, what better opportunity do they have? There are so many ugly buildings with so many disgusting white walls, that it's calling out for graffiti artists to turn our sort of urban mess into a really beautiful picture. And I mean, for heaven's sake, I mean, Malta has such little agricultural wonder left, even though, Malta has some of the nicest landscapes, probably in the world, natural landscapes in some areas. Let's protect them. Let's not spray them, They're already being taken over by concrete buildings. Spray those walls rather than nature's. On to our last story, particularly a really exciting story for any TV show fans out there. Below Deck Mediterranean is filming in Malta. For those of you who don't know, Below Deck and its spin-offs, Below Deck Med and many others, basically has a behind-the-scenes look at the world of super yachts and the crews on them, with the crews rather dramatically for anyone who has seen them sort of dealing with their day-to-day and with all these super rich clients, impressive demands, and obviously all the drama that comes with reality TV. Over the weekend, the super yacht of Below Deck Mediterranean was spotted in Melleha Bay. Obviously, a lot of eager fans tried to get up closer. Some really cool shots. You can see them actually all on lovinmalta.com, really up close and personal of this yacht, What we know so far is that they're going to be filming over the next few days in Malta, Gozo and Comino, and are actually going to be dining at a few local restaurants. So if you know anyone out there who's got a good contact, make sure you go turn up, and really importantly, don't look at the camera if you're on screen.
I think some footage actually emerged yesterday on social media of them getting off the super yacht and hitting up Maltese restaurants, so they've already come on land. If you are a fan of the show, it's on Netflix, so a lot of people have seen it on Netflix, as well as some clips that have gone viral on Facebook. So if you are a fan, definitely check out our report for some up-close images of their super yacht, which is called Home. That's what they're filming on, Home, which was not chartered locally, it was chartered out of Malta, and they entered with it. That brings us to the end of first part of today's episode, so definitely stay tuned. We've got a very awesome interview coming up next with the Mayor of Marsa, and before that, we're going to cut to a quick clip, our trailer for the latest episode of Lovin Streets, all about Gżira. Public holiday tomorrow. If you're planning to do something, hit up Gżira, check out the episode for some good tips. Now, when it comes to epic comebacks, I don't think there's any Maltese town doing it better than Gżira. In the next episode of Lovin Streets, I will find out how such a small, strange little town became numero uno for food and culture in 2021. And we're back on Lovin Daily. Today we've got a special guest, Mayor Azzopardi, the Mayor of Marsa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, I wanted to bring you in because obviously there was very exciting news in the last few days. Marsa has been named the capital of culture for Malta. So before we get into the details, I think there's a little bit of confusion over what this exactly is. So what is this capital of culture?
Mela ħanibdew minn hawnhekk. Jonathan, aħna ilna nafu ftit il-xulxin u kull darba li tkellimt miegħek dejjem provajt nagħmel promotion kemm jista' jkun lil-lokal tiegħi. U waħda mill-problemi li teżisti għal il-medja ħafna drabi tiffoka fuq dak li hu ħażin. Fil-lokal tal-Marsa bħal kull lokal ieħor hemm ħafna li hu tajjeb. U dak huwa xogħol is-sindku, xogħol il-kunsill li jagħmel promotion tal-lokal tiegħu. Issa, x'inhi għadi l-idea tal-lokal kulturali ta' 2022? Mela, l-ewwel nett dina kienet jisa kompetizzjoni bej il-kunsilli lokali. Kien hemm l-obbligu li jsiru 12 activities, 12 l-attività maqgħuda għas-sena d-dieħla. Il-kunsill tagħna jiġifieri pprepara dokument sħiħ għaliex kien hawn min forsi qal u dana il-Ministru tajulhom u dana u da qabel l-elezzjoni ħafna kummedji li jdejquni. U weġġawni sinċerament mhux inħobba l-politika jew xi ħaġa, weġġawni għaliex ix-xogħol biex tagħmel dokument u d-dettalji li fih huwa wisq u naf xi ġifieri għax kienu l-jieli fejn qatt imqajjem biex nippreparaw dokument. Pratikament għandek anke l-expenditure kif se tkun u għandek jisu skeletru ta' programm li għalkemm qatt fadal iċ-ċans li wieħed jibni fuqu. Jiġifieri kien hemm min qal imma issemmew festi, issemmew affarijiet fejn il-kultura. Għaliex biftit minuti li aħna nagħmlu fil-medja ma tistax tispjega programm vast bħal manna u fil-fatt jiġbor ħafna aspetti u għad hemm iċ-ċans ukoll u wara li tħabbret bdew iħin kollu javviċinaw nies fix-xena tal-kultura li jkollna aktar għajnuna. Issa, biex ngħid kollox għaliex ħafna nies ma jkunux jafu kif bdiet. Aħna bħala kunsill meta ddeċidejna li mmorru għaliha, jiġifieri napplikaw, aħna ma qadniex waħedna, imma ftaħna expression of interest, sibna 3 organizers b'saħħithom, mhux propjament mhux sibna ġew huma. U għażilna organizer li jista' jgħinna fiha. Konna nafu li tant huwa vast li waħedna ma stajniex naslu għaliha. Issa kien hemm min qal isma' 200,000 daw se tirranġaw il-Marsa li m'għandax taqsam xejn. Daw il-200,000 biex nirranġaw xi post storiku, daw il-200,000 huma sempliċement għal programmi. Mela, f'Jannar ikun hemm attività. Fl-aħħar mill-aħħar fit-12 l-attività inti tkun infaqt 200,000. Ovvjament, il-Kunsill se jkompli jimbutta biex jagħmel attivitajiet oħra matul daw 12, mhux se jaqaf daw 12, jiġifieri aħna jekk il-miliet dejjem kellna ċelebrazzjonijiet fit-toroq għall-miliet, jekk il-karnival dejjem għamilna ċelebrazzjonijiet, jiġifieri se nkomplu nżidu ma li għandna.
I mean, obviously, you've raised some good points there, but online there was a lot of reaction to this. I mean, as you just said yourself, a lot of people wondered, is 200,000 euros enough to address the problems that Marsa faces? Now, obviously, this is based on cultural events, but a lot of people wondered if this was a bit of a greenwashing attempt by the government, There's violent incidents over the last few months. I know in June there was a bit of a spat of public violent incidents, ongoing issues with the open center in the area, general upkeep as well. So there are a number of very key issues that residents themselves bring up. So is anything being done to address that?
Mela, nħu pjaċir li qed titkellem dwar di situazzjoni u ejja nibdew minn fejn bdiet il-Marsa. Law nett il-Marsa fl-1890s u nsemmija għax importanti li wieħed jifhimha, aħna prattikament qisu lokal li għandu x'jaqsam mal-Industrial Revolution. Di forsi ħadd ma jagħti kasa, imma fid-dinja dejjem hekk ġara. Fl-1890s il-Marsa kulħadd ħafna nies ġew il-Marsa. Ġew il-Marsa għaliex kienu ħaddiema. Ġew il-Marsa għax il-Marsa kien hemm ix-xogħol. Ix-xatt fi żmien l-Ingliżi kien fl-aqwa tiegħu. Issa, ġew il-Marsa ġew workers, ġew ħaddiema, mela awtomatikament anka nies oħrajn kien hemm diġà lenti ħażina fuq daw in-nies. Apposta ħammur għali għadi, daw kienu nies li jaħdmu fil-faħam. Kienu nies li jaħdmu f'kull tip ta' snajja madwar ix-xatt. Mela, li tara bniedem minħabba x-xogħol tiegħu mimli mikrofon, minħabba li kienet jaħdem, minħabba li kienet jgħin lill-familja tiegħu. Diġà kien hemm aspett ta' negattività fuq il-post. Issa, għaliex nitkellem hekk, għaliex kien hemm min kien ġustu għal isma' aħna rbaħnija aħna meta tant għandna postijiet mitluqa u għandu raġun. U dak huwa ġust, dik hija kritika ġusta. Għaliex dinja naħseb wake-up call lill-gvern u lill-gvernijiet li għad iridu jiġu. Li jisma' teżisti l-Marsa u hemm bżonn tagħmlu xi ħaġa dwarha. U nixtieq nagħmel punt fuq dan. Meta tara l-European Capital Cities, ma jirbħuhomx l-isbaħ postijiet. Dan mhux beauty contest kien. Kieku morna l-beauty contest ma konniex nirbħuh, fair enough. Dan mhux beauty contest u din importanti li jkunu jafu għan-nies. Din hija opportunità biex titfa' id-dawl u minkejja n-negattività se daludu stess rajt artikli li jweġġawk. Fl-istess ħin qed niġbdu widnejn lill-awtoritajiet li qed ngħidu isma' jeżistu nies hemm komunità ta' 5,000 ruħ li qed tgħix f'ċertu ċirkostanzi ejja ngħinuhom.
Do you think there's an unfair lens on Marsa by the general public?
Unfair żgur mhux forsi. L-ewwel nettem l-idea ta' klassiżmu. U ngħidlek għaliex, jiena ġej mis-settur edukattiv, jiena llum assistant head. Imma meta kont pereżempju student teacher u mor ġo skola, insertat skola fis-South, imma il-head pereżempju ta' din l-iskola, mingħajr ma nsemmi dara dettalji u mhux qed nitkellem għall-iskola li qed preżenti, meta jmort bħala student teacher sempliċement qed niltaqa' mal-head u għalt li minn fejn int u għattilha mill-Marsa, għalt li għax ma batukx l-Opportunity Center tal-Marsa.
Wow, lallu.
Saftit ilu jiena mort mal-mara tiegħi li mhijiex mill-Marsa, ma mort mal-mara tiegħi nixtru minn Garden Center. U kien hemm persuna li nsaqsejta int mill-Marsa għax ħsibta li xatt. U dil-persuna speċi qalet tarani mill-Marsa jien.
Wow.
Hemm ċertu klassiżmu. U delli kraħ fuqna. Ġustifikat, mhux ġustifikat, ma nafx. Jiena għalija mhux fair. Dina kienet teżisti fuq Bormla, sa ftit snin ilu, u aħna xnija nsemmihom b'rispett għax għandi rispett kbir lejn Bormla. Kien hemm nies li ħarsu l-isfel lejhom, illum il-politikanti imorrulek max-xatt ta' Bormla u jieħdu ritratti. Jiġifieri Bormla li niftakara meta kont żgħir, ix-xatt kif kien dak li jkun kien ħares leħ b'mod ikraħ. Ma' żmien għaliex kien hemm investiment qawwi mill-gvernijiet, illum hija differenti, storja differenti. U ħansemmi post ieħor. Dak ngħidulu l-waterfront, u jien qatt ma ngħidlu Valletta waterfront. Qatt, għax mhuwiex Valletta waterfront, imma ħalli ma jidħolx f'dik il-biċċa xogħol. Dak meta kien mitluq, kulħadd kien jgħidlu Marsa.
Wow, okay.
Dak fil-verità huwa Marsa, jiġri parroċċa huwa Marsa. Issa, meta kien mitluq u aħna konna żgħar u konna ninżlu hemm noħdu xi biċċa ħobż biż-żejt u noqogħdu nistagħdu, hemmhekk kien mitluq ħadd ma kien ħares leħ li ħajmur jikol is-sibt flaxija. Imma llum inbidlet u meta tirranġa u tirriġenera tibdel il-perspettiva.
So is that what you're hoping for Marsa? That in the next 5 years, 10 years, it becomes like the waterfront, it becomes like Bormla is nowadays?
Ħanajdlek jekk is-sindku ikun min ikun ta' ġifieri llum jien bejn oħra ma jista' jkun ħadd ieħor. Jekk is-sindku ma joħlomx li jara l-lokal aħjar, qed jaħli l-ħin. Jiena mill-ewwel ġurnata bdejt naħdem flimkien mal-konsil tiegħi biex nagħtu image stampa differenti dak li l-Marsa. Rid nagħti tama lin-nies. In-nies pereżempju jekk tinnota anke fil-kummenti, ma ssibx nies li jattakkawlek il-kunsill per se, għax il-kunsill ħin kollu għaddej. Araw in-nies x'inhu ma jgħidu u qatt ma jgħidlek għax il-kunsill telaqna jew il-kunsill abbandonana. Ħafna drabi n-nies jattakkaw lill-Gvern ċentrali li ma tifax flus biżżejjed fil-lokal.
One, just coming to mind now, you have Adrian Zamit, quite a popular influencer. He's said some things about the local council. So not everyone is in favor, of course. I mean, so what do you make of this? So people from Marsa, are they proud to be from Marsa? And when you have these kind of outspoken voices, what do you think of them?
Ħanilek, naħseb li xi ħaġa mħalta. Per eżempju, jiena li trabbejt fit-triq prinċipali taħdej il-Knisja, triq Balbi. U allura l-attivitajiet kollha kienu madwarna, jiena gburi li jiena Marsi u ma jiddispjaċini xejn. Seħibna Adrian ma qal xejn ħażin ta'. Adrian prattikament li qal. Dana hemm problema fejn joqgħodu minħabba drainage system li fil-verità l-kunsill aħna m'għandniex aħna nafsu biex il-water services jieħdu ħsieba u ilna għaddejjin fuqha. Imma il-problema li ġiet li bdew iħaltu dak li affarijiet problemi lokali magħha. Per eżempju, il-problema tal-immigranti li għandna belt jew raħal kulturali mhux se isolvijat il-problema, kont nitħaq bin-nies. Jekk hemm problema ta' drainage, x'ħadd tagħmel differenza mal-belt kulturali fis-sens, all right, hija xi ħaġa li tista' titranġa u jalla titranġa. Problemi kuljum ikun hemm fil-lokalitajiet, il-Marsa biss għandna problemi. Forsi n-nies jarawni wisq pożittiv fuqha. Iwa, hemm problema bl-immigranti. Waħda mill-ikbar problema hija l-immigranti. Għandek problemi pereżempju bil-prostituti. Nafuhom, da żgur li nafhom, jiena kuljum naħdem fuqhom, imma kemm jista' jkun il-problemi nwassalhom għand min għandi nwassalhom. Jiena lill-Prim Ministru u jista' jismani, jiġifieri qed ngħid il-verità kollha, sa tard bil-lejl indejqu u nibgħatlu fuq WhatsApp il-Prim Ministru u jirrispondini lill-Ministri l-istess inżommhom, però kemm jista' jkun l-istampa li jiena nwassal lin-nies lill-pubbliku ma tkunx li nagħmel ħsara lill-lokal tiegħi. Issa mhux kulħadd jaqbel miegħi għax kien hemm min jgħid li isma' meta nagħmlu ħsara xejn qed ngħidu l-verità. Iwa vera, l-verità qed tgħid. Imma jekk inti qed tagħmel tipprova lill-lokal tiegħek jien naf għax imbagħad in-nies igergrulek jgħidlek isma' il-proprjetà qed bagħti. Allura inti stess tmur tmaqdar lill-istess post li titbih forsi jew li titissib jisu bilanċ. Jiena nifhimhom in-nies, jien nifhimhom għax inkun magħhom. U niddejja pereżempju nagħmel post nirranġaw post u dak li jkun jgħidlek isma' din irranġajtu għall-immigranti. U ma ntihomx tort, għax jekk jien arranġajt pjazzetta għadni kif irranġajna pjazzetta sal-kunsill u flaxija għadulek ammont ta' migranti raqdulek hemm. X'tort għandi jien bħala kunsill? X'tort għandu l-poplu u għalfejn u bliema dritt jiġi xi ħadd ikun min ikun u jgħajjar lin-nies tal-Marsa. Daw il-problemi mhux aħna ġibnihom fuqna.
So you've successfully obtained this fund, 200,000 euros, which you're going to use for cultural events. And I know you often post about general upkeep as well. You know, whenever you have the cleansing department, you often post on social media. So I see efforts in those areas. But these other topics you mentioned, homelessness, immigration, as well as prostitution. What's being done to tackle those issues?
Ara, naħseb jien dejjaqthom lill-pulizija. Bis-serjetà kollha jiġifieri Kieku għaw il-supretendent qed jismani jgħidli iwa vera, jiena nċempillhom kważi kuljum, ma għodx niktebha Facebook di, kważi kuljum nċempillhom. Fil-Marsa kemm ili sindku jiena u l-Kunsill tiegħi u anke bis-saħħa u ngħidha b'ċertezza jiġifieri bis-saħħa anke tal-Ministru li hemm preżenti bajrin ngħidha buċċi minn quddiem jiġifieri bl-ebda mhux biex nissapportja jiġifieri għall-votet nitkellx laqas joħroġ fuq id-distrett tagħna, jiġifieri biex inkun imma dana huwa bniedem li jiena nibatlu WhatsApp u jgħinni kemm jiflaħ. Issa dana pratikament ikonna patrols biżwiemel, patrols bil-klib jiġifieri tal-pulizija. Il-community policing kien kollu fil-lokal, l-arajju jduru. Imma li rrid inwassal il-messaġġ. Daw ma jdurux minħabba r-resident. Ir-resident huwa vittma tas-sitwazzjoni. Il-problema x'inhi? Ejja mmur għall-problema vera. Il-problema vera hi u di tweġġa n-nies meta ngħidha, mhux lin-nies tal-Marsa tweġġa lil min ikun fl-awtorità. Problema hi li għandek ammont ta' emigranti li daw qed jgħixu f'postijiet li mhumiex forsi ta' livell jew hekk u qed jiġru barra fit-triq. U qed jispiċċaw f'kull attività ħażina li jista' tkun. Sal-biraħ stess, ġifieri niddejja ngħidhom imma huma l-verità. Sal-biraħ stess jiena stess insibt tnejn li huma mitluqin mal-art, imma ftit li xejn tista' tagħmel dwarhom. Jien bħala sindku m'għandix ebda saħħa.
So they were passed out on the street? Asleep?
Eżatt. Aktar mill-li sleep jista' ikunu forsi ħadu xi ħaġa oħra insomma. U l-pulizija ftit jistgħu jaslu dwarhom għax jistgħu jagħmluhom. Il-problema diki, il-konċentrazzjoni ta' immigranti li m'għandhomx x'jagħmlu.
Is this an integration issue?
Ngħidlek, integration ma teżistix.
That's not good. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people would be shocked to hear that.
Ma importax, diġà xokjajnihom b'ħafna affarijiet u ħalli xokjahom di wkoll. Issa ħana mela ċara. Jiena ġej mill-aspett edukattiv. Minix bniedem li jiena moħħi magħluq b'xi mod jew ieħor. Ġifieri mhux qed ngħidha b'responsabilità.
Yes.
Ħanejdlek x'inhi. Jekk ikollok ġnien u fih ikun hemm l-immigranti, imma mbagħad niżlu l-Maltin, l-immigranti ħajsparixxu.
Okay.
U vice versa, ġifieri għandna sitwazzjoni fejn jekk l-immigranti qegħdin il-Malti ma jmurx hemm, jekk il-Malti jagħtaw l-immigrant ma jmurx hemm. U mbagħad taħseb dwarha għaliex. Għaliex ħafna drabi dawn l-immigranti li qegħdin fil-ġonna qed jagħmlu attività li hija legali. Jekk tinżel pereżempju mija, jien ngħidlek ejja mmorru fil-ġnien u hekk u tgħidli ħanuħu ritratt. Kif ħad tipprova tuħu ritratt ħajsparixxu. Pereżempju l-beħ ta' drogi. Issa, daw itapnu l-immaġini tal-Marsa. Imma ma jfissirx li allura minħabba fihom aħna naqbdu u nżarmaw u ma nagħmlu xejn. Ma jfissirx li dawk il-5,000 ruħ li hemm Maltin jien ma naħdimx bis-saħħa lihom, sinċerament qed ngħidha. U nagħmilha mhux għax-show, għax jiena nista' noqgħod id-darb mal-mara u mat-tfal tiegħi, m'għandix għalfejn noqgħod nitneħħes jew nidħol f'dan l-inkwiet kollu u x'naf jien. Ma jekk inti vera tħobb il-lokal taħdem għalih.
Of course. So on this issue of integration, are you working with NGOs, maybe even groups like Moviment Graffiti that have connections with migrant communities to help kind of start the process? Because clearly you've got a whole community of Maltese people, a whole community of migrants, and they're just not mixing.
All right. Ħana, xaġa li ġibni naqra f'korner u musajdi għanu jieġibata jiġifieri. Waħda mill-inkwietija li NGOs dana kif ikun ġej vapur jgħidulu idħol u jiġġieldu mal-gvern. Sorry forsi imma hija realtà. U jgħidu imma x'jiġri wara mbagħad. Kuntenti li jkollok ammont ta' immigranti hemmhekk ma jagħmlu xejn matul il-ġurnata jew jagħmlu attività illegali. Issa, jiena mhux l-ewwel darba u ngħidha b'responsabilità. Jiena inżilt fil-ġonna, ġieli tkellimt anke ma' immigranti, ġieli daw immigranti li kienu fit-toroq provajt ma nħallihomx homeless. Ħafna drabi ma jkunux iridu jirranġaw mis-sitwazzjoni.
What did they tell you?
Għaliex ikolli l-każijiet partikolari. Jiġifieri tniżżel l-appoġġ pereżempju, tniżżel il-YMCA u ma trix tiġi. Għax jiena nipprova naħdem naqra iktar bis-sens tgħid li xiġifieri. Mela, jekk jien għandi homeless jiġri fit-triq, dak huwa problema għalija. huwa problema għaliex minn ximkien irid iġib il-flus. Mela, biex jiena nsolvi l-problema tiegħu u tiegħi, għaliex taħdem fuq żewġ binari, dak il-homeless b'xi mod ma rridux fi triq. Issa, kif tista' tgħinu? Net għandek id-dinjeta ta' bniedem, dan huwa bniedem. Mela, għandu bżonn fejn joqgħod. Ma nitkellmu mal-YMCA u tani ħafna Mayor Luis Colero Preka, l-ex-president, jew l-president emeritus. Però kelli każijiet fejn ma ridux imorru f'hom.
Why? What did they say?
Ħafna drabi kienet il-problema ta' droga. Għaliex pereżempju ma jdaħluhomx fil-YMCA.
So there's a drug problem with the migrant communities?
Iva. U anke niżilt l-appoġġ. Imma jekk inti servizz ma tridux, u dik li tweġġani, mela rrid li nsiblek fejn toqgħod ma rridx. Ridtek tibda forsi programm biex ngħinek mid-droga permezz ta' appoġġ ma tridx. Allura xi ġifieri sa tibqa' li fil-ġnien u tifel ħajġiela fil-futbol ħjara lilek bid-droga mhux aċċettabbli. U hawnhekk fejn jridu naħdmu bħala pajjiż, għax il-Kunsill huwa limitat ħafna. Hawn Malta naħsbu li l-Kunsilli għandhom saħħa enormi. Fil-verità, is-saħħa li għandna hija vera ftit ta' jiġifieri mhux kif jaħsbu n-nies hemm barra. In-nies iċamplu li fuq kollox. Imma 3/4 ta' dawk il-problemi qas ikunu tal-Kunsill. Jiġifieri.
So just to close off this topic, do you feel that you have enough support, be it from the police, be it from organizations like YMCA, or be it from the government, when it comes to tackling these very serious issues?
Musta ngħidlek li kontent. Fis-sens qatt ma se nkun kontent qabel tissolva l-problema. U jekk ħalamel hekk, ħankun qed inġib il-balla fuq sajja u kif ngħidu. Jiġifieri il-pulizija dejjem ħankompli nafas fuqhom. Il-gvern ikun min ikun dejjem ħanibqa' nafas fuq u li rrid iktar. U dejjem trid iktar. Dan jekk nieqaf u ngħid isma' biżżejjed ta' tajtuni biżżejjed, ma tarax. Lej jiġifieri inti għall-lokal tiddejjem l-aħjar. Jiġifieri kontent mhux ngħidlek li kontent, żgur, ma tistax tgħidha għax inkun qed nikdeb. U jiena kemm jista' jkun bniedem totalment sinċir jiġifieri f'dawn l-affarijiet.
Finally, I just wanted to jump to a bit of a different topic, but it's something that residents had brought up with us, the relocation of the oil tank cleaning facility. So a lot of residents reacted quite negatively to this. They said a number of issues would happen in Marsa because of this, such as toxic fumes, possibly being let out into the area, and that it generally will not be in the direction Marsa wants to go. What's your reaction to this?
Naqbel. Mhux jien biss, imma l-Kunsill miegħi. Il-Kunsill kollu. Aħna bħala Kunsill għamilni ċara li aħna ma naqblux ma' relokazzjoni tal-operat tal-tankijiet. L-operat għax it-tankijiet diġà jeżistu, ma l-operat tiegħu ma naqblux biex nkun korrett. Għajna nappressaw, għadna nippressaw, ma nħorġux kollox fil-medja, imma għadna l-ħin kollu għaddejjin fuqha. U meta n-nies ħarġu fi triq, jiena bħala sindku u xi kunsilliera konna hemmhekk, jiena tkellimt waqt il-press conference li saret mal-graffiti u gruppi oħrajn. Iva, aħna nemnu li iva dik mhix id-direzzjoni tagħna. Jiena d-direzzjoni li nara l-xatt tal-Marsa ikompli bħala estensjoni ta' dak li jeżisti fil-waterfront. Jiġifieri waħda ma tikkompatix mal-oħra u hemm kumpaniji li sfortunatament ilhom jużaw il-Marsa għal ħafna snin, li daw ħamġu l-Marsa, li daw tefawlna ġol baħar ċimiterju ta' vapuri u jiddispjaċini qatt ma ħallew xejn lil-lokal użawh biss sfruttaw tal-qohem. Daw l-ġieħ li għandna għandis tal-Marsa kif wasal iż-żmien issa li ejja ħaniċċalqu telqet il-power station, sewwa, telqet naħdu pjaċir, żgur li ferħanin. Inkun giddib jekk ngħidlek li ma nkunx ferħan, imma issa s-sit tal-ex power station inut li tibqa' art vojta. Hemm bżonn bis-serjetà law din art li bħalissa mhix qed tagħti frott lill-gvern. U hemm bżonn li din tibda. Hemm dek postijiet bħassi Malta li huwa mitluq. U postijiet b'saħħithom li huma storikament jeżistu fil-Marsa, imma n-nies ma jafuhomx. Jiġifieri kull jkollna nduru dawra max-xatt u tellajt video ħafif jiena ma fxek rajtu x'hekk kellek x'ċans ġoti. Ta' postijiet storiċi li jeżistu fil-Marsa huma ħafna, però qegħdin fi stat ta' abbandun. Jien naf nixtieq insemmi ġifieri jekk tibda max-xatt għandek il-binja tas-Simolta, għandek it-tinda tal-patata li ħafna drib inti tgħid di possibbli imma hija xi ħaġa storika. Hija storika meta tara ritratti antiki ta' x'kien jiġri hemmhekk, jiġifieri x-xogħol kbir li kien hemm hemmhekk. Tibqa' sejjer il-ġew għandek il-mifsud verandas li ħafna nies ma jafux x'inhuma. Għandek daw jiġu eżatti fuq il-baħar bil-veduta sabiħa tal-belt u tal-isla. Imbagħad tibqa' aktar il-ġew għandek il-kappella ta' ċejlu. Nies mill-Marsa jgħidu li di fejn tiġi il-Knisja ta' ċejlu ma jafux biha. Għax hija privata, hija fi stat mitluq, aħna bħala kunsill tlabna anke lill-gvern biex tiġi rrestawrata u għadna qed nistennew ir-risposta jiġifieri tram station pereżempju ħdej l-open center ħadd ma jagħti każ li eżatt jaħdih. Għax huwa jikraħ tara illum, imma jien ma narax dak li hu llum kif inhu llum, jien nara l-qudiem. Pereżempju ħafna nies jgħidulek il-Marsa ix-xatt mitluq ara jekk jirnexxilekx issib tixtri jew tikri garax hemmhekk. Tgħidli għaliex? Għax min għandu naqra għal f'moħħu u jkun bniedem mhux jara għal ftit żmien imma jara anke fit-tul, ħafna drabi huma nies li jkunu fil-business, fin-negozju, hemmhekk kollu mixtri mill-privat. Jiġifieri għandek ammonti kbar tal-privat li qegħdin jistennew li l-gvern jibda. Kif il-gvern jibda, daw se jċċalqu. Fil-fatt, forsi qed ngħidlok fit-tul, ma fil-fatt meta kien hemm pereżempju l-kwistjoni tal-oil tanks, daw bdew iċempluli. Jien qasbis kont nafhom, jiġifieri daw bdew iċempluli, jgħidu isma' x'ħajġri. Għaliex daw l-image tagħhom, l-immaġini tagħhom hija simili għal dak li għandna aħna. U allura jista' jkun dik kienet 7,000 milli huma jimxu l-qudiem. Imma il-potenzjal huwa kbir, jiġifieri.
So finally, exactly on that note, you're obviously a clear, proud Marsa man. You know the history of the area. So best case scenario, what's your vision for the future of Marsa? What do you want your town to become?
Jiena naħseb li jkun qed ngħidlek fuq il-potenzjal kemm huwa kbir. Ħafna drabi tgħaddi issa minn Marsa u tgħid x'telqgħu f'din l-area. Mbagħad tmur tal-Planning Authority fl-applications u tibda tgħid hawnhekk ġej ristorant, hawnhekk se jinbena, ħajt qobija n-nies jiġifieri n-nies tal-Marsa stess jgħidu da x'inhu jgħid. Araw pereżempju fejn hemm is-salib tal-Marsa, jiġri Maldomoro, hemmhekk hemm pjani minn nies tal-business, ġifieri mhux mill-gvern as such, minn nies tal-business biex jinbidel kompletament. Jiġifieri fejn ara l-Marsa l-qudiem. Il-Marsa fl-istat li qiegħda il-qudiem tista' timxi, żgur mhux forsi, il-qudiem. Tgħidli għaliex alright, lajna tant matul iż-żmien, kien hemm ħafna żmien meta qisu aċċettajna kollox għaliex ngħidu kif inhi dana fuq 25 sena jew iktar kien hemm ċertu telqa u mhux mill-Kunsill għax irid inkun fair. Ħafna drabi kienet mill-gvernijiet ċentrali li telquha. Hemm potenzjal kemm trid. Naf nitkellem hekk għaliex kważi jiddispjaċini nitkellem, naf tgħaddi pereżempju tara fabbrikanti ta' tqiq. Ħafna nies qasbis jafu biha u jgħaddu kuljum minn qudiemha. M'hemmx għarfien ta' dawn l-affarijiet li għandna fil-Marsa u jistgħu jamalgamaw ma' xi ħaġa li hija moderna.
You know, Mayor Azzopardi, once again, thank you so much for coming in today. You've raised some very key points, and I do sincerely hope that in the coming months and years we do see, you know, Marsa step up a little bit, kind of enter the pier that it deserves to enter. As you've said, it's got some incredible history. You've got some proud residents there as well as some hard-working people. So hopefully the next few months and years are some good years for Marsa. And apart from that, we'll be looking forward to these 12 events, right? They'll be happening all throughout 2022.
Yes, it's okay. Grazzi ħafna lilek u anke lit-telespettaturi kollha ta'.
Let us know in the comments below what you think of what the mayor said, as well as, you know, what your thoughts are about Marsa, as well as any issues and what you hope the future holds for it. And as always, have a day full of lovin'.